Hi, everyone. Welcome back from that break. Hope you were able to take some deep breaths. We were going to be starting our lunch and learn right now. So this is just going to be a really casual demo of the ESL Library platform. I am joined with Tara and Christina, who are going to be hanging out in the chat and Q&A. They'll be able to respond to all of your questions. If you joined the Lunch and Learn yesterday, I'm going to be covering the same content. Now, I know there was a lot of content, so you're certainly welcome to join us for today if you want to just revisit some of that, or you have new questions if you've gone on the platform and have new questions for us. But if you already saw it, you feel like you understand the platform pretty well, feel free to just, take a lunch break. And then after this, we'll be going into a deep dive into flashcards as our next session. All right, so just wanted to get that out of the way for you guys. Don't want anyone spending time if you have other things to do. But if you are new to ESL Library, you're new to teaching, maybe you're new to teaching online, I'm hoping that this will have a lot of different information for you. I'll be covering the ESL Library platform specifically, but even if you don't use ESL Library, I hope this will have a lot of different ideas for you, things you might be able to do in your classroom, and just general tips. All right. So I see someone's asking a question, where can I get a real room screen like the one behind Tammy? I got this when I was in high school, so it's been around for a while, and I never had a use for it until COVID hit. And now that COVID happened, I was like, I know what to use that for. So one good thing came out of COVID. I think that's the complete list. All right. So I am going to start sharing my screen, and then Tara and Christina will be taking care of you guys in the chat. All right. So let's share the screen here for you. And actually, I'm going to highlight my pen as well. There we go. Okay. We're looking good. Awesome. Thanks so much, Tara. Okay. So for those of you that are completely new to ESL Library, it is a paid subscription platform, which means that you pay a fee, or maybe your school or your district has purchased an account, like a group account, and then all of the teachers within that have their own accounts. You'll log in, and when you're logged in as a teacher, you'll see your name in the top right corner, and that's how you'll know that you're in your account. When you log in, if you're a longtime user of ESL Library and you haven't logged in the past couple of weeks, this main page here may look a little different than usual. We recently changed to a more, I don't want to say interactive, but a more exciting main page on our site. So every day or every week, we're changing the materials that are showing up on what we are calling our Discover page. So this is our Discover page here. You can find new and featured content, lots of exciting material that you'll find here. And what I like is that it is not just our lesson plans. Our previous main page, which still exists, and I'll show you where to find it, but our previous main page only had the lessons. And I think that is doing a bit of a disservice to all of the other content that we have on the platform. We have these flashcards, which I'll be talking about next. I won't go into too much detail today, but we also have these blog posts, and we have resources, and all of those were kind of hidden. You could only find them before if you went exploring and looked in our menus. But now we have new content that's featured here, including also our workshops, our webinars, and our conference, as you saw prominently right there at the top. So new materials are featured here, content that's relevant to what's going on today. We have National Hispanic Heritage Month coming up. We have garbage. It's World Cleanup Day, so garbage solutions. We have a lesson on that. You can view more new materials. And as many of you know, we're always coming out with new materials. New blog posts come out every week, new resources, new lessons. So there's new materials that you can always find under this little bell icon in the top. There's a little blue icon that'll show up there as soon as something new is created. And if you click on that, you can find all the new materials and view all of those as well right there. But they'll also be featured here to inspire you. And we have our English with the Washington Post here. Lots of new lessons are always posted to that. Usually, I think 1 or 2 a week. Tara can probably speak to that in the chat for you guys. But we want to keep things fresh, new, relevant. And if they're relevant, they're going to be more engaging for your students. So lots here. Trending topics that teachers are searching for, our new social emotional learning collection, lessons with videos, like I said, events, grammar here, and our blog posts, which we are featuring more prominently now. Right now, we're featuring our conference speakers and our different Flipgrid partnerships, since we just had them present at the conference yesterday. But you can find a lot here. There's a whole post on our WIDA correlation, and you can explore more of those blog posts by just clicking View More or by going to Materials blog. So lots here on this main page. And like I said, it's always going to be changing, so it should stay fresh and new for you. All right. There's so much to cover in this demo because there's just so much content on the site. I don't have time to really get into the content itself. But what I do want to do is show you a really brief overview of what it might look like if you're teaching with ESL Library. So you will start by wanting to find materials and hopefully organize them. And then the next thing you're going to want to do is maybe you're going to teach it. So we'll look at the PDF, a sample PDF. We'll look at the digital teaching tools as well. And then you probably want to assign some homework. So that's how we're going to go through the demo today. It's going to be real quick, but don't worry, we are recording these sessions. We also do weekly-ish webinars. We have a session next week where you can stop in and ask us any questions. And you can find that by going to esllibrary.com/discover and scrolling to the webinars area, and you'll find this coffee talk with ESL Library. This is just going to be an open Q&A period. So if you click on that link, it'll just take you directly to the place where you can register for that live Q&A session, or you can join another webinar where we'll cover the same kind of material in the future. We will not leave you hanging, I promise. All right, so first thing, finding and organizing our content. Already finding content right here on the Discover page. You can also, as I mentioned, browse through our lessons. Let me zoom in for you. This is probably quite small. By the way, if you are watching on like a desktop or a laptop right now, within the AirMeet platform that you guys are using for this conference, if you hover over the demo screen that I'm showing, right in the top right corner, there's like 4 arrows. You can click that and it'll make it full screen. So it'll be a bit bigger for you. Might help you out. Okay, anyway, I'll also be zooming in to make it easier for you. So in this materials drop-down menu, you can browse through our lessons, our flashcards, our resources, and our blog posts. Browsing is a great way to find content. And especially if you're creative, you like to just kind of do things on your own, that's a great way. We also have these more organized thematic collections. And so if you want a little bit of guidance, you have a vague theme in mind, maybe you have a unit that you want to create, or you're just trying to think of units that you might create for your students, the collections is a great area. I also like this. Let's click into collections real quick. I like the collections as well. If you're teaching something like a grammar class, that's, low-hanging fruit. Go click into the grammar collection, absolutely. But maybe you use a textbook as well. You're not just using ESL Library. And in lots of countries and lots of places where we teach, we have prescribed topics that we need to cover, right? Let's be realistic. So many teachers have the luxury of choosing what they want, but some have prescribed topics. Or maybe you're teaching a content course, like a biology course, and you have ESL students or English language learner students as well. You might want to go and just search for the theme that connects well with what your students are learning. So maybe I need to be teaching about a holiday. I can go here and find holiday seasons and events. Or maybe I need to be teaching, let's go into academic subjects here. Maybe I'm teaching a science course, something like that. Then I might go and click into the STEM collection. So these collections are a good way to find more thematic content. And when you click into a collection, let's click into STEM, just as an example, you have the ability to see there are 546 results. It's showing right here in the center that relate to STEM. By the way, first time you click in, it's going to show this kind of list view. And then if you click over to this compact view here, you'll be able to see a more compact view, this kind of grid view right here. I just prefer that because it's a little quicker to kind of skim through. But if you need more details, there is that list view for you that kind of summarizes everything. But 546 results, that's quite a few. So I might want to use this drop-down menu here to narrow down the level of my students. And my account is set to a European account. So right now it's showing the European framework levels. But if you're Canadian, it will default to showing the Canadian language benchmarks, the CLB. If you're American, you're from another country, it will show by default, I believe, just the descriptive words like beginner, intermediate, and advanced. And you can always go into your account and change what it shows by default for the level. So you can narrow if I'm looking for materials for, let's say, complete beginners. I don't know if there's going to be anything. Oh, it does say that there's some here. So we could go there. And if I'm looking for my higher level students, I can sort by that. So you can sort with that filter by level. You can also filter by age. So if I'm looking for materials for young learners, I can filter and see only the materials for young learners. And I can also filter by material type. And we're going to open that up. I can find the flashcards. I can find flashcard categories. I can find lessons and resources and narrow to see, let's say, only flashcards, for example. So sometimes our eyes just look over things like drop-down menus, but don't look over them because they're very, very helpful. Also, if you're looking to narrow information down on the left-hand side, this is a STEM collection. So we have science, technology, engineering, and math. And if I'm teaching maybe a science class to young learners, I might want to click on science. And then maybe I want to also filter down to young learners. And that has helped me find what might be most appropriate for my students, at least out of the library of materials that we have. All right. Let's look at one more collection. Actually, I lied. Let's peek at grammar real quick, just because, grammar is useful. The grammar collection is a little more straightforward. We have, different verb forms that you can find here, simple verb forms, or let's go into modals today, just for fun. Modals are fun to teach. Modals of advice or modals of possibility. So if I'm looking for those lessons on modals of advice, I can click here. I don't know if we have anything specifically for young learners. Looks like we do. So there we go. Filter that out. And we'll look at one more kind of thematic collection here. Like I said, there's so much content, so please go in here and explore yourself. We do have our videos as well. There's 4 collections in here. I'm not going to click into that, but that shows all of our different lessons with videos within them. And there are quite a few. Canadian language benchmark competencies. If you're Canadian, this is helpful for you. But let's click into academic subjects one more time. I'm a big fan of social emotional learning. Oh, that's a good one to point out. I was going to actually talk about the environment, but I lied. This is really relevant to what we talked about today. So again, to find the social emotional learning collection, this week it's featured on the main page. But when it's no longer featured on the main page, you're going to go to materials, collections, then go to our academic subjects collection, and social emotional learning is hiding within there. And here you can find these really cool breakdowns on the left-hand side. I love how you did this, publishing team. So we've got self-management, relationship skills, decision-making. And so if I want to work with my students on social awareness, for example, I can click on that. And let's see what we have for young learners. So great materials there. And I can see here, this is a blog post, this is a lesson, this is a resource. Now, as I'm finding these resources and I'm loving them, or I'm intrigued by them, or I want to just check it out, right? I need to start organizing them. So something like this blog post, for example, it says, can making small talk help you live longer? I've got this lesson on Sabi's feelings, which is the lesson, pandemic puppies. These all look kind of intriguing. So I'm going to go to this blog post. I'm just going to click into it, and it's going to take me directly to that blog post. I'm zoomed in quite a bit. So I can read through the blog post. Most of our blog posts are written for teachers to give you ideas and inspiration. Actually, anyone can access our blog posts. You don't have to be a subscriber, and that's really good to know because you can, post links to these on your social media, for example, and share the blog posts with anyone, other educators that you know. And we also have some for students as well. So if you wanted to share links directly to the blog posts for students, you can do that. But if you are a paid subscriber, if your school has a subscription, you can click on the little folder icon, and that allows you to save the blog posts or save a lesson or save a flashcard set or save a resource. You can save those into a folder that you've created, and that allows you to organize all of your materials. So this one is actually for students, I'm just noticing. It says right there at the top. So I could save this as something that my students could listen to. There's an audio component right here at the top and a lot of information here. I'm guessing it's probably reading through this. Let's see.
How many people do you talk to as you move throughout your day? Making small talk.
Wow, that is a wonderful voice actress right there. Wonder who did that. So you can go ahead and save that. It's Tara. Spoiler alert. All right, and you can save that to a folder. And who do I want to work on this? Can making small talk help you live longer? Which of my students do I want to assign that to? Maybe that would be great for a business English class, because in some cultures you make a little bit of small talk first. I think this could make an interesting cultural discussion with my students. So I'm going to save that to my business English class. And maybe that's something that my debate students could talk about for 5 minutes at the beginning of class too. So I'm going to go ahead and save it to those folders. Okay. Now I've started to organize that content. Maybe I would want to go back to that collection. I don't know if I click back, will that take me right there? Oh, so convenient, it does. So I'm here in the social emotional learning, and maybe I want to find, a lesson on that same topic, and I could start creating all of these different sets to kind of organize them into a folder. All right, so that's if you want to put together materials for yourself, create your own units. If you would rather just have someone kind of hold your hand and you say, look, I am teaching this grammar intermediate level course for the first time. I don't want to have to go and find the materials for myself out of all of these thousands of materials. I just want someone to give it to me in a recommended teaching order. Kind of like a textbook, but it would be nice if you can kind of adapt that textbook. Maybe I could tear out some pages I don't want. Maybe I could find some other pages I like and put those in there. Well, you're in luck. And that also is within the folders area. So folders is how you keep your life organized. And it's also how we can present you something that is organized. And then you can take it and adapt it and make it perfect for your students and their needs, because you're the expert really on your students and your classroom. So I'm going to go to folders. All of my folders that I've created are sitting right here for me to use. But the ESL Library team, publishing team, has put together these folders for you. You can click in there and find all of these different folders with those lessons, resources, blog posts, materials, all arranged. Flashcards, did I miss flashcards? I missed flashcards, all arranged in a recommended teaching order. So if I'm teaching that grammar course for intermediate, looks like I even have two choices, intermediate A or intermediate B, and I can see what it's covering: gerunds and infinitives, modals, first conditional, present perfect. Okay, yeah, I'm doing conjunctions with them, so I'm going to go into grammar course B. And what I'm going to do is I can look at it by just clicking into the course, into this folder. It starts with guided notes for me as the teacher, so I know what we're going to be covering, how to use this folder, and then all in a recommended teaching order. There we go. There's our flashcards, for example, sitting there. So if I love this set, and I think this is a great start for me, what I'm going to do is make a copy of this. And I'm doing course B. So I'm going to go to the 3 dots on the right side. If you learn nothing from me today, learn that you always look under the 3-dot menu. Okay, 3 dots have many good things hiding there. It's called a More menu. And this allows me to copy to my folders in this case. I'm not going to actually copy it to my folders because I don't really need this. But if I were to click on that button, what it would do is it would take a copy from the ESL Library pre-made folders, and it's going to move it to my folders. And once it's in my folders, it is mine, right? I can do whatever I want to it. I can, let's click into my professional development one. I could say, oh, okay, click on those 3 dots next to a lesson here, and I could say, remove this. I'm not going to use it with my students. I could rearrange it into a different order and say, I want to teach this one first, this one next. And I can also save them to other folders as well if I'm going to use it for other classes. So there you have it. You can get a presented, nicely made course for you. You can tailor it, make it just how you and your students like it. And then if you are part of a school or a district and your whole group is using the same account, you're part of a group account, you can actually share that perfectly curated curriculum that you've come up with, or that perfectly curated unit, and share it with another teacher. And the way that you do that is you say, okay, I've got this great set of professional development materials, or this great set, let's say my unit 3 on summer, it's perfectly curated. I want to share that with another grade 4 teacher at my school. So I'm going to just click on the 3 dots and click share with. And then I can either share it with all of the teachers within my district or my school, my group, by toggling this on, and then that will be available for them if they're interested to take a look at it. Or I can just choose an individual teacher. In this case, Lay might be interested in using it. Maybe she said, hey, send me that set that you created. So I can just share with her there. So that's a pretty cool feature. And again, all of those folders that are shared with you or shared with other teachers, it'll be under the shared with me tag that you'll see if you're part of a group. The nice thing is, all these folders that it looks like Lay has shared with me, I can then go to the 3 dots, copy it to my folders, and continue that process of refining and making something perfect for my students. So if you are so inclined, you can organize your materials and really share, and sharing is caring, right? Spread the love that way. Okay, let's look at some actual content, because we spent a little bit of time talking about how to find content, and that really is like one of the most important things. But let's go into, I'm going to go into our lessons, and I'm going to show a discussion starter. I'm always tempted to go rogue and do something that I haven't done before, and I'm really, really tempted again. Let's just go into Vanishing Honeybees. I might regret this. We'll find out in a second. I'm going to click into Task Player. Okay, I think we're good to go with this one. Okay, so let's start by looking at the PDF. I just want to point out that we do have a, let me back up one space for you. We have a PDF version of the materials. We have a digital versions of those same tasks that you'll find on the PDF, but you can use them to a little bit more easily present them in class or online to your students. And all of these digital tasks in the task player can also be shared to your students as homework with the assignment manager. So we'll just very quickly look at the PDF. I think this is pretty intuitive for most teachers. Oh, this is, see, this is why I don't go rogue. I found a rare lesson that does not have our British English, but I know they're working to add British English to all of our lessons. I think they're aiming for the end of the year. Tara can probably say whether or not they're close to achieving that goal. I know we keep creating new lessons, and so that goal might be going further back, I'm not sure. But we have our American English, our Canadian English, and then our British English is here for most of our lessons as well. You'll find a teacher version of the PDF, a student version. Those are completely identical. The only difference is that the teacher PDF has an answer key at the end. And then all the audio that goes with the PDF, you can find down in the bottom left-hand corner. Click on that, and you'll be able to play it and stream it live, or you can download it as well. And if there's the British English spelling, then you'll also find British English audio as well. Okay, so sorry to our publishing team that I'm showing one that doesn't have that quite yet, but it is coming, I promise. All right, and when you're teaching in class, of course, you can print this, and you can do that in the top right corner, print it out for your students or download it. You can also present this on a screen behind you. If your students all have printout copies, then you might want to present the PDF on a screen behind you, and you can do that as well. You have a few basic tools. You can zoom in. You can use this little pen tool here if you want to, change the color, make it pink, underline something. Ask my students, what is this? How many bees do you see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, you have different ways to interact, and you have a basic eraser tool. Nothing that's going to blow your mind, but it is an option. And if you want, you can share the the digital version of this PDF with your students by clicking on this little push pin icon. If you're in Google Classroom, you can click on this little green icon. It'll share the PDF, student PDF version with your students, or you can copy this link and share the student PDF version on your Facebook page, on your Canvas, your Blackboard, your Moodle, whatever platform you're using, you can share that as well. It will only share to people that are listed as your students within ESL Library. So if your brother goes and clicks on your Facebook page link, it's not going to let him in unless he is your student as well. But that is an option for you. Some teachers are more comfortable with PDFs. Some students are more comfortable with PDFs. So there you go. However, I really recommend teaching with our task player because I think it's just a little more interactive. It's a little bit more engaging. So I'm going to show you that. Let's click into that guy. You'll notice that most of, I'm not going through that lesson plan, but most of the content, most of the tasks on the PDF are completely identical in the digital version here. However, there's a few things that might be extra in the PDF, or it might be extra within the digital version. So here you can see we start with a warm-up video, and clearly the PDF doesn't have a warm-up video built in. So we have on the left-hand side here 9 different tasks. Sorry, there's an airplane going overhead that's distracting me. On the left-hand side here, we have 9 different tasks that we can use. I can teach in this order that's recommended, or I can bounce around if I want to. I'm going to start with this first task here. So this warm-up video is just meant to generate discussion. I have some warm-up questions right here. They also show at the end of the video. And if I am teaching online, the way that I would do this is I would log into my teacher account with ESL Library. I would share my screen, and just like I'm doing with you guys right now, and I can enter into full screen mode and play the video. Now I'm just going to play the first couple seconds.
Vanishing honeybees. What do you know about vanishing honeybees?
Okay, so our video would continue on, and at the end of the video, we have those warm-up questions. So I could leave this displayed, and again, if I'm in a physical classroom, I could display this on the screen behind me. And this is really nice if you have students where some might be at home still and some are in class. It's really a nice option so that you can be displaying this and addressing students that are in different situations. So it's very, very flexible. I like that a lot. I also want to point out that within these videos, if you click on the gear icon in the bottom, you can change the speed of the video. So you can make it half speed. If you want to be silly, you can make it 2 times speed for your students. There's a lot of different options for you there. We have these different kind of matching tasks. I'm not going to go through these. I think they're pretty self-explanatory. But again, you are sharing your screen with your students. And so you need to elicit these responses from your students. If you want your students to do the clicking themselves, you want them to be doing the matching, then you're going to want to assign these to your students as homework. And you can do that. And I'm saying homework, it doesn't have to be homework. You could assign it to your students and have it be an in-class activity. So if they all happen to have their own devices, you can assign it to your students and you can do it together in classes or have them work in it in groups together. So there's a lot of different ways you can approach this. All right, let's look at just one of these task types. I'm going to look at the listen and type. This is your classic like gap fill activity, also called a close activity, where my students are going to be listening to something and then they're going to be filling in the blank. And you might be wondering like, well, how do I do that if I'm teaching online, right? My students, of course, I could assign this as homework. My students could type it themselves. But if I'm leading a class and over Zoom or something, how do I do that? So what I would probably do is, this is a lesson aimed at more of an intermediate, high intermediate level. So I would probably click play. I would let it read through the first paragraph maybe, and I would ask my students, what did you hear in the first gap? What did you hear in the second gap here? Another option is if you want to make it even more difficult, have your students grab a physical piece of paper in real life, just let it play through the whole thing, and then they can take notes as you go, and then you can ask for those responses. You can also have your students all show what they wrote for the first blank. You know, if they've got cameras and they're comfortable and able to turn them on, then you can just have them show it to the camera. It doesn't have to just be communicating through a chat or a microphone, although that's a great option. And as a reminder, if you're having your students communicate in a chat to respond, they're practicing their spelling, they're practicing their typing skills. If they're responding over a microphone, they're getting that pronunciation practice. So it really depends on the modalities and the different skills you want your students to be practicing. Okay, so I would let it read through that. We'd get those responses from my students. Like I said, I went a little rogue, so I haven't actually seen what the answers are. So I'm going to cheat. And I'm going to look at this little apple icon here. So I clicked this little 3 bars to bring up my task list. And this is your answer key as the teacher, this little apple icon. So I can, speaking of apples, did you eat an apple today? So apple and bites. And so what I could do is I could ask my students, what did you hear in the first gap here? I'm going to type in apple because I just cheated. We'll put in a random answer here. And I'm going to submit that. And here we can see how we did as a class, right? Obviously, we did not do so well this time. We can review our answers, see what was correct, what was incorrect, and what the correct answer should have been. Should have been bites. Okay. And we can go through this. The nice thing also is that this is an activity that has an audio component, and the audio is sitting right here. So if I need to replay this last paragraph and re-listen to it with my students, we can just scrub forward to the end, re-listen to that. Or if I am assigning this to my students, of course, they can re-listen to this as many times as they need to really hone that listening accuracy. This task type also has an option for your students to just try again, or you could try again. It'll erase all of the answers. You start from scratch, or you can just fix your answers, and that will underline what was correct, highlight what was incorrect, and you can go ahead and edit that together. You can re-listen with that audio down at the bottom if you want. And you could submit that and see, how did we do? Did we get that correct now? Yeah, we did. Good job. All right. This, I'm noticing, also has a personal response. It's a speaking task. We covered these speaking tasks a lot yesterday. If you missed our session, we had a whole session diving into our different types of speaking tasks on the website, on the platform. But I'll show you one really quickly. These are not so great to do live unless you just want to display the question and have your students talk about it. But they're really shine when you want your students to get that out of class practice. So if you go ahead and click start here, we have this little description here. Dandelions provide food for honeybees. Should homeowners allow these weeds to grow wild in their lawns? And so it's got a series of little questions here. Your student, if you're assigning this as a in-class task or as an out-of-class task, your students would click that little microphone button at the bottom. They're going to record their answer. They have up to 2 minutes to respond. When they're done, they go ahead and click stop. And then they have the chance to re-listen to what they recorded. They can delete it. They can re-record if they don't like it. And then they can go on to the next question. In this case, there's just one question, so I'm going to submit it. And then my teacher would have a chance to leave feedback later. All right. So let's go ahead and show very quickly how to assign something and how to leave feedback for our students. We're going to do this really quickly, but just so that you guys have an idea, you can start playing around with it. Let's assign something for a lower literacy level. We've been working with a higher level right now. So I'm going to hop into our lessons and go to our word bank category. And let's do our community helpers lesson because, you know, this is always a good thing to talk about with our students. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the tasks in the task player, you'll want to click in here and you're going to start learning these like picture dictionary. I know what a picture dictionary is because I've used the site enough, but it gives you a little clue below that it's a flashcard set. Image matching, word choice, see and spell. Okay, so I'm familiar with all of these. I feel good about assigning this to my students. I'm going to go to the assignment manager now, and this is how I actually assign the homework. So let's assign this to a class, to my conversation class. I'm going to assign to all of my students. Well, maybe Sarah doesn't need it. We'll just remove her. And then if I want to, I can select all of these tasks, set a due date, and be on my merry way, assign it, and I'm done. But for me, I think maybe I'll just assign a few of these. Let's not assign everything. Okay, let's just assign those tasks. I'm going to set a due date. They're all going to have the same due date. So I'm just going to use this due date button at the very top. And let's make it due by next Thursday. By default, it's due at midnight, but I want them to submit it in time for class. So let's do it before lunch, actually. I'll click Save. And I can see all these dates here. You can edit those dates if you want to make them each have their own due date or due time if you wish. I could post to Google Classroom, or if I'm using any other platform at all, Blackboard, Canvas, Moodle, Facebook, emails, WhatsApp, whatever, I just send my students to esllibrary.com/students, and they'll find their student dashboard there. So my job is done assigning homework as a teacher. And what the students will see, if they're in Google Classroom, they'll skip over this page. If they go to esllibrary.com/students, they can one-click log in with Google. If your school or district use Clever, they can one-click log in with Clever, or they can log in with a username and a password, like I'm going to do here. And they'll find their homework sitting right here. By the way, if they have late homework, it shows up in a separate tab. And if they have completed work that they've already finished, they can see that right here. It'll be really easy for them to do. Okay, they can revisit those picture dictionary sets you've assigned to them or whatever. Okay. So here I've clicked into my assignment. I can see I have a picture dictionary task, an image match, and a see and say. I'm going to ignore the picture dictionary because we're going to learn more about those in the next flashcard workshop if you join us for the next session. But let's go into the image match A, and I'm just going to quickly do this homework task real quick. So I'm going to just match some of these words, bus. This is a simple match and click right here. Now, if you're in an actual classroom leading activities like these, we didn't really look at a lower level lesson. There's a lot you can do to make this more engaging, more creative. I'm going to try that again because I only got one correct. Let's try to do a little bit better this time. If I was leading this, and I've got it on a screen behind me in my class, I might say, I see someone who's holding a stop sign. And then I can ask, who is it? Is it him? No. Is it her? No. Is it him? No. Is it him? And so my students might say, no, it's number 3. It's this person. So I can click on it and I can say, okay, who is this? Is it a firefighter? No. Is it a doctor? And so there's a lot you can do if you're a teacher leading the activity. But if they're just doing it as homework, it's going to be a simple match and click. All right. And I got a perfect score now. So I can go back to my assignments. I got a 1 out of 5, but I actually did a little better than that. I made multiple attempts. So if I click on that link, I can see a drop down with results from all of my attempts, and I can make as many as I want. All of these things the student can see, the teacher can see as well. And then if the teacher wants to go ahead and give feedback, they can do that from within their account. Let's give one response to a see and say real quick. So this is a speaking task for a lower level student. They simply say the word doctor. And then they can do that. In this case, they're going to go through a whole bunch of different ones. So I'm just going to click my way through and submit the answers. And the other thing you may notice is that it also records how long your students spend on each task. Okay, so let's hop back to the teacher side. I'm not going to go into too much detail about how you lead feedback, but if you just go into your class where you assign the task, in this case, it was under class prep, my classes. Into my conversation class, I can see that I need to leave feedback on one of the assignments. And I can just kind of follow that little blue icon to the task that I need to leave feedback on. So I'm not even thinking, I'm just seeing blue and following it. And so here a student left me a recording. I can click play and listen. Doctor. And I can rate their answer and say, whoa, that student has excellent pronunciation. And if I want to, I can leave written feedback as well. They didn't record answers for these, so I can just quickly see and scroll through and submit that feedback. And now my student can see that feedback from the teacher. So that is basically the gist of it. If you want to see your students who, did the image match and you want to see the results, there's a little eyeball icon. You can click through, see the results from that as well. Those drop-down menus like we saw. And you can leave like a general comment for your students if you want to just build those relationships, which are so important. So you can say great improvement, because I noticed my student got a 1 on the first try and a 5 on the next. And so my student can see that feedback as well. And we have changed those blue icons to these gray icons to indicate that there's nothing that you need to do. Whew. So that's kind of our whirlwind tour of the platform. Very casual, but if you are new to the site or not super familiar with it, I hope that gave you a little bit of insight. And if you're not a subscriber at all, remember you can still access those blog posts. Those are completely free to everyone. We have tons of great information on there. Of course, we'd love it if you join us as a subscriber, or if you think maybe your administrator is interested in getting connected, or you're part of an organization, have them reach out to us at hello@ESLLibrary.com. We'd love to see if it's a good fit for you guys. So let me see if there are any questions I can respond to before we move on to our next item.
Hey, Tammy, I think we've been able to answer most of the questions here. There are a few about flashcards that we've just been telling people to come to the next session. Some detailed ones about PBLA or CLB that don't apply to everybody. So I think we'd love to have a webinar related to just CLB, PBLA. We had one recently that we went to. There's lots of questions about that. Not lots in this chat, but over the whole conference, there have been lots. We have lots of Canadian teachers here, but I think for the most part, we were able to answer everything. I haven't been checking the actual chat there, so I don't know if, oh yes. Can you show them how to annotate on the PDFs? So if you go to the PDF preview, I don't know if we have time. If not, maybe we could show it in the table.
Yeah, just give me 1 second. Just was switching accounts because I know we have the raffle coming up, so I wanted to have that ready to go. Let me share my screen real quick.
And one teacher had a good idea that she gives her students the control of her screen so that they can actually annotate. That's a really great idea. I hadn't thought of that one.
Okay, you might have to guide me. I don't know if I've ever actually, oh, you're talking about the text tool on the PDF viewer?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so I just clicked, what I did was I went to our lesson. I'm going to go into the PDF viewer. I'm going to hide that sidebar so we have a little more screen space here and zoom in a bit for you guys. And you're talking about using this area where I had the pen tool.
Yeah, exactly.
And then there's also a text tool. So if you wanted to type something here, you can. Of course, you can adjust the size to make it a little smaller if you need to type more. But let's say I just wanted to type the word I to add a little bit of vocab for my students. I can just type that, drag it, and drop it right there. So that's an option for you.
Yeah, this is kind of a limited feature. It comes, with the PDF viewer, so it's not something that we have a lot of control over how it looks and feels, but a lot of teachers still prefer the PDF version and they want to, screen share this, and that's your choice if you want to do it this way. So we've made this available to you. It's not available, obviously, to your students because they're going to be printing the lesson, but yeah. Yeah. And okay, some of our resources do have an editable field. So some of the forms in the assessment area do have an editable field. And if you ever find one that you really need to be editable, you can let us know and we can do our best.
Do you know of one off the top of your head that is editable, an assessment?
Yeah, it would go, if you want to go into the assessment tools, this would be more for our Canadian language bench teachers. There's one called Shared Criteria for Success. Yes, this one, I believe this one has some editable fields.
Okay.
Might not be this one, but there are some in here. I can't tell.
Okay, yeah. We can leave a message in the chat or send a direct message to you about that.
Yeah, great. Yeah, definitely there are some that are in there.
Okay, fantastic. Any other questions? I should have left my screen up, actually. Any other questions to respond to before we move on to our selecting our raffle winner?
There was a comment about just higher levels. We had this a few times yesterday as well. We get a lot of requests for lower level discussion starters specifically, or functional English, famous lessons. We've done some at the lower levels, and we're kind of getting started with some beginner levels as well, but just keep sending in your requests and we'll do our best to fill them.